Got Yuri Lowenthal playing Spider-Man Peter Parker.
Yeah.
Got my man Nadji Jeter, who's playing the one and only Miles Morales.
Yeah.
Brian is still here.
I don't play anybody.
Brian plays the biggest Spider-Man nerd ever.
Well, I don't know.
Well, I'll challenge you for
Yeah,
that.
I would challenge you.
You did actually have Brian in a suit one.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Gotta talk about Bill still with us.
Greetings.
And we have Black Cat.
Hey.
Erica, what's happening?
Hi.
And we have one of our villains.
I'm the accountant.
The accountant.
I'm the intern. I brought coffee.
Mr. Negative is the most positive person I know. I'm just happy to be here.
I know.
We got Steve
Happy to be
Oyoung,
here.
who is Mr. Negative, joining us as well. So, Marvel and Insomniac, you worked to create this more experienced, wiser version of Spider-Man. Let's talk about that a little bit.
So we wanted to make a wiser one, that we chose somebody like Yuri, who's opposite of that.
dumb.
No,
Yeah, it's right.
no, it was really, I think for us was, the origin story had kind of been done a lot already, and we said, what's another point in Peter's life that would be pretty memorable for a lot of people? And I remember for me, when I graduated college and was paying my own bills and my own rent and trying to make a name for myself in my career, I'm like, that was pretty memorable. I was like, I think that'd be a good time to explore with Peter. And then from there on, we just started looking for like, well, who is someone that could represent that well? And the thing I kind of boiled down to someone who had humor and heart, and Yuri nailed it.
Oh.
Like nailed it. Like absolutely.
He really does.
And I remember
tender
where I
moment.
was.
Yeah.
So we put Yuri through the ringer. I mean, we asked him back like 4 times. And then I remember I was actually away on the East Coast, and I said, just one more VO sample, just one more. Like, and he's probably like, I've done this 1,000 times. Like, just one more. And like, it was like 50 lines we asked him to do. And I was back east, and I was in a bedroom, like downloading all the files. And I just closed my eyes and I said, that's Peter Parker.
You haven't told me that story.
Actually, it's an exclusive. I saved it.
Same
But I mean, that was when I knew. And then every single day, whether it was in the VO booth or in the PCAP stage, it just came to life. And it was with all of our cast.
That's awesome. So, Nadji, you're playing Miles Morales. Where does Miles find himself in Marvel Spider-Man?
Oh man, there's a long history with Miles that my uncles actually told me about in the '80s, which I wasn't born in. I was born in the '90s,
Shut
baby.
up.
The '90s, baby. So you know. But anyway, so man, Miles goes back, man. But Miles to me was just a new bright character that I took into, a huge liking to, because I got into my inner kid again, and then also, growing up on Spider-Man as well too. So, when they gave me the background of Miles and then also his history and then how he is, finding out all of this and having such a great responsibility at such a young age and then taking on this whole new world, man, it's amazing, because he's like a big kid in a candy store, with his first $1 million. So he just going crazy with it, but at the same time, he's trying to stay focused and then knows what's coming, because it's a lot coming from Miles and Peter, but,
So we do get kind of an origin story.
Yeah, and I think, and the thing is, we cast, I think Yuri and Steven were cast pretty early. Woo. I got a great
Yeah, we did.
And and what happened was, originally Miles was actually going to be a smaller role in the game, and then a lot of us started digging more into the comics, and I'm like, no, we gotta kind of elevate him. And I even asked you, could they coexist in the same world? And
Exactly.
And you
So
said,
in the
yeah.
comic books, Miles originally came from another reality. And Brian said, could they both be in the same world? And I'm like, we can do that. I love it. And the reason I love it is it allows us to have our cake and eat it too.
Yeah.
So Peter is, like you just said, 8 years older. He's no longer a teenager,
Yeah.
but he's still a young adult going through these more adult challenges.
Yeah.
And then we have Miles, who's kind of at the age that Peter was
15,
when
yeah.
he first got bit by the spider. So you get that great relationship, and again, we don't have to retell Spider-Man's origin, which we love, which is great, but it's been told so many times.
Yeah.
So it allows us to start fresh, but still kind of poke at that teenage experience.
That
as
is
well.
amazing.
And I think, Yuri, didn't we bring you to do the final test with Nadji, to do the
I came in when we were reading Nadji.
And I remember we did a couple rounds. We brought Nadji back, and I said, Yuri, and can you come back and just And I remember seeing them on stage again, and I was like,
Right, and
that's
he walked
Peter
out,
Miles.
and I was like, you bet.
That's the guy.
That's awesome.
Because that's Miles Morales.
And that was really, really fun to see their banter and the way they worked. And I mean, there's a very, one of the first things we ever did with these two is actually a pretty emotional scene. Oh, yeah. And I was just like, oh man, those guys are good.
That's awesome. So Steve, Mr. Negative.
Yes, sir.
Oh man.
Who is Mr. Negative?
The negative energy.
Mr. Negative. Who is Mr. Negative?
is Mr.
Bill
Negative?
and Brian would know way
Well, we knew we wanted to, showcase Spider-Man's greatest villains, like his classic villains. But then we said, as Brian was talking about earlier, let's mix it up a bit. So we picked a character, Mr. Negative, who's only been around for about 7 years.
Yeah.
So for many people, this is their introduction to him. They don't know who he is. But we knew
Yeah.
that we had an
Look at that guy. Hey, Hollywood, hire this guy. Hire this guy.
We knew we had a great chance. If you think about this show, Jessica Jones on Netflix, and they introduced Kilgrave, the Purple Man, and no one really knew what he was, but they spotlighted and they showed why he was great. And so we said, that's our opportunity. We're gonna get this newish character, show him to the world. They won't know who he is, but they're gonna walk away saying, "I love that villain. He's awesome."
Yeah, that is amazing.
Yeah.
So
And
Can I please tell the story of Steven auditioning? Just real quick.
please do it. You got to.
So Steven was literally the first person we brought in for Mr. Negative.
It was.
And he scared the living crap out of us. And the guy, you guys know Walt.
Yeah.
You guys know Walt.
Yeah.
Walt looked like the fear of God. And then Steve throws down this knife and basically says, "There's nobody better than
Yes.
me." And we're like, "Yeah, man, you're the captain."
I was in it, man.
He was in it to win it,
That's
man.
funny. I had a suit on and everything. I didn't even know. Yes, ironically, I had a black suit with a whatever, and then we had to do this thing.
A lot of
You
the
brought a
times
knife
when we
to the
first,
audition?
yeah, when first people bring people in, we don't tell them.
Oh, nice.
Man, that guy's stunt double is amazing. Who is that stunt double?
And another reason why Mr. Negative is so cool is he symbolizes that idea of worlds colliding.
Yep.
So Peter's Aunt May works at the Feast homeless shelters that are run and funded by Martin Lee.
Yeah.
Martin Lee is also, oh my gosh, he's Mr. Negative. He's Spider-Man's.
Spoiler alert.
So it's
No spoilers tonight.
Oh my gosh. My aunt's boss is a villain and could endanger my aunt. Boom, worlds colliding.
Worlds colliding. So, The City That Never Sleeps is the DLC post-launch content coming to Marvel Spider-Man. And Miss Erica, you were playing Black Cat, who was
am.
in that first episode.
Yes,
so
I
tell us a
am.
little bit about that.
Oh, I don't know how much I'm allowed to say.
So stay away from spoilers.
Let Brian say it.
So we don't get in trouble. I'll get us in trouble.
There's the
So we
teaser.
actually Black Cat, she is in the standalone game that you're going to play in about, I don't know, like 35 minutes or something. And we kind of set up that they've had a history, and Black Cat is basically the featured character of our first piece of DLC, which you see here.
Yeah.
And that was another great example of just when I heard the audition, I was like, Black Cat.
Oh, really? That's
Oh
so
my
cool.
God.
A lot of times what I do is before we've actually created a model, I actually will just grab a clip. I'll go to I'll Google like Black Cat or Spider-Man or something. And which, by the way, be careful when you Google Black Cat.
Yeah, I've done that a few times.
Sorry. And you just close your eyes and you're like, okay, or like look at the concept image and go, okay, could this be the voice? And it was perfect.
Oh, well, thank you so much for
You're very
letting me be a part of this.
welcome.
Like,
This Black Cat suit that you're seeing right there, it's another great example of what the Insomniac team did, and that's you get a character, you get a villain's look, and you think, how can we modernize it? Because some of these characters were invented 30, 40 years ago.
Yeah.
How can you modernize it? How can you take a character but still maintain who they are, be respectful of what the colors of their suit, the color blocking, so that when you look at it, you're saying, well, I've never seen that version of Black Cat before, but that's Black Cat.
yeah.
So it's modern,
And we
it's
did-
accessible, it's innovative, it's authentic, but it's ownable.
Yeah.
I will say, I mean, I can't say anything about to the plot, but I think that Felicia Hardy has been somebody who has done her damnedest to be unencumbered by feelings and emotions, and Spider-Man is sort of the only person, or Peter Parker is sort of the only person who's ever bucked that system for her. So, that's why it makes their dynamic so interesting, and I love it. And I love that you feel it just even in that teaser. Yeah.
I wish I had thought of that.
Right.
That's exact. I knew you should have said that.
She likes Peter because Peter feels for her.
Yes, exactly. Yes. Very good.
Yeah.
So
this is great.
Steve, you know, Mr. Negative is a newer, relatively newer villain, right?
Yeah, like 10
So
years
how
or
does he mesh with the rest of the villain cast in Spider-Man?
Are you trying to rank him? Because he's dope. I will literally fight anyone. I could do it too. I'm just saying. You know, how does he rank? I mean, well, obviously, I'm very biased. So I think he's like legit. I'm literally like, oh, all these other villains. Vulture, seen him, been there, done that. Sorry, no offense.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying.
But you got some cool inner
Dude,
demons. You got your inner.
I got my
demon
inner
gang.
demons, you know, and for me, like I do think he's a complicated character, and I do think he's a sympathetic character too.
Yeah.
I also think he's super handsome.
Yeah.
And ridiculously talented. So yeah, that's where he ranks for me.
I think that was another thing we wanted to focus on was make the villain's motivation something that you could understand. Like he might be doing terrible things, but there's a reason why, and it's not just because I just want to destroy the city to destroy the city. There's something as you play the game. I mean, because the campaign is really really long. You're going to start to discover that what drives Martin to be Mr. Negative and what he's doing to the city and going after certain people is very personal. And we want to make sure that it was a very three-dimensional character.
That's awesome.
And Steve did a great
and
job.
credit to the writers, you know, John and everybody, and Brian. And because when I saw the reasoning, it was very emotional, and I don't have emotions.
Yeah, none.
No.
So
We had the writers had to give something.
Yeah, really get that in there.
All right, so one last question. This is to you, Yuri. What has been the most funnest part about playing Spider-Man?
Waking up in the morning and going, oh, I gotta go to work. Oh, my job is being Spider-Man. This is the best. I can't wait to get to work.
Yeah.
That is, and it's such a great. I mean, this has been such a great family to work with. There hasn't been a dud in the bunch, and everybody, you know, loves what we're doing. And there's so many, you know, I could trust what was coming from the team because everybody loves Spider-Man so much. I knew they were not gonna let me mess up.